record this. And I will post the link in the meetup or Facebook group, depending on where you saw this. So you can go back and look at it again if you'd like, but I'm very happy you're all here. Welcome to 5 Empowering Tips for Empaths class. I am your host, Jennafer Martin. I do want to say that I have birds, and so you might hear some squawking or some good, actually they're pretty good at like sound effects too in the background. So just so you know, that is not your imagination. I just have birds, and sometimes they make little noises or big noises depending on the day. So welcome. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what empaths are, and maybe a little bit about what they are not. And we're going to go over 5 different tips to help either you, if you identify as a highly sensitive person or empath, or people you love who identify that way. I am very excited to be here. My name is Jennafer, as I said, and I've been an empath my whole life. I think most people are, because I think it's the way we're wired, but I did not figure out that was something that described me until well into my 30s. I sort of came upon it almost by accident, where I was having a time where there was just so much stress at my work that I was coming home and just sitting on the couch and doing nothing fun anymore. And I would usually, go to classes or, go to lectures or all kinds of, and have dinner with friends and all kinds of things. And I just wasn't able to, because I just didn't have energy. And I just realized that there had to be a better way for me to be living. And I started looking things up online and realized there was something called being a highly sensitive person or empath. Since then, I have started 2 different meetup groups, or hosted 2 different meetup groups for empaths. I have taught lots of classes, and I've done personal one-on-one coaching for people who are struggling with being highly sensitive. I believe it's a wonderful advantage when it's in balance, but when it's out of balance, it can feel a bit like a curse. While we're all kind of, while I'm introducing myself, if you don't mind dropping in the chat where you're zooming in from, that would be awesome. And if you also want to share something that tends to be a little difficult for you as a highly sensitive person, I would appreciate that. Just to, kind of keep our conversation topical, and that way I can make sure I'm keeping your comments and questions and such in my brain while I'm teaching. Oh, I've got Montana, New York, very nice. Welcome everybody. Oh, Sarah's in Pennsylvania, very nice. Awesome, welcome everybody. Holy cow. I appreciate you, especially if you're 2 hours ahead of me tuning in right now. We will get going, and hopefully, and if you have any questions or anything, feel free to post them in the chat. And let's see. And I think what a lot of what people are talking about is kind of differentiating, if people's feelings are theirs or not, or what to do when they feel someone else's stress. So we will definitely be talking about that tonight, so that's good. Portland, welcome Jen. First, I just want to talk a little bit about what a highly sensitive person or an empath is, and I'm going to use the terms interchangeably, although the two biggest psychotherapists who have written about these things don't necessarily, which is Dr. Elaine Aron and Dr. Judith Orloff, don't necessarily equate them. But for today, we're just going to talk about them, the both as interchangeable interchangeable labels. There we go. Whew. So on the top of our little circle is, what people think being highly sensitive means, which is just being irrationally over emotional and crying all the time or making a big deal out of nothing. But honestly, what being highly sensitive means is all of these other things: being extremely observant, being empathetic, having a highly tuned nervous system, caring about everyone and everything, having strong emotional reactions, all the feels all the time. So there really is a lot more to being a highly sensitive person. The actual word sensitive probably needs better PR, but that's okay. It is definitely appropriate and accurate, even though I think sometimes it's interchangeable with emotional. So what is like a highly sensitive person? Well, an empath is a person who has the ability to comprehend the emotional state of another person. And everyone can have empathy, right? If you lose someone close to you and you're grieving, and then and I've lost someone close to me and I'm grieving, then I can absolutely empathize with what you're going through. But people who are empaths feel the emotions of others as though they're their own, and they do not have to have been through it to feel it. We just kind of pick it up like little antenna, and that is what we do. I really like this little graphic too, because it has a lot of different things that are very common to people who are empathic or HSPs, highly sensitive people, needing a lot of solitude to decompress, always looking to help. We are ridiculously great listeners. We can be very intuitive. We actually also, tend to internalize other people's emotions as though they're our own. We tend to have a really strong belief in the goodness of humanity and love nature, animals. We are always trying to figure out why something is going on or looking for answers. We tend to be kind of human lie detectors. If someone's telling us something or they're saying one thing, but we can feel it's really about something else, it's easy for us to detect. We tend to be the person that everyone wants to tell their problems to, even complete strangers. And we also have a hard time with violence or cruelty, whether it's like, in the news, which is just things being reported on, or even on other media, like if we're listening to a podcast and it's a little bit harsh, or it's got some violence in it, or if we're watching a TV show or things like that. Sometimes they're really hard. I always have this thing where if there's violence against children or animals, I can't handle it very well. So that's mine. But these are just some of the very common things that people who are highly sensitive go through. There are lots of other things. We tend to have sensitivity to sensory input, where lights and strong scents, even textures, that kind of thing. And we also tend to get a little overwhelmed in crowds because there's just a lot of energy going on, that kind of thing. But the first thing I think that's important as far as feeling empowered as an empath is just to really understand your nature. So we talked about all of those common traits or experiences, but honestly, understanding that being an empath is your nature is really, really important. Um, and I love this quote that being an empath can be overwhelming and scary at times, but then you can become one with who you are and become a badass empath, which I like, even though it's a little edgy. um, being highly sensitive is definitely the way we're wired. It is a neurodivergence. It is something that they have traced back to genes, and that we usually inherit from one or more of our parents. It's definitely, we're born that way. It is not something we really opt into. It's also not a disease or a behavioral problem or anything like that. It is just the way we are wired. Um, it also means that we have a very dialed up nervous system. And so understanding that, this is just the way you're wired is a great way to say, okay, well, I can accept this. And now that I know that, what do I do? And so tip number 2 is to feed your nervous system. So because our nervous systems are dialed up, we find ourselves in some form of fight or flight, which is a very important and useful state to be in if the body perceives danger. But when we're having trouble being able to relax in general, it can be sometimes really difficult on our nervous systems because they're always on alert. So some of these things that you're seeing on your screen, a lack of focus, shallow breathing, some tenseness in the neck, arms and shoulders, all of that kind of thing. These are all things that can be pretty normal for us, honestly. Like, we're not necessarily always showing all of these symptoms, and we're not always in full fight or flight, but our nervous systems are really dialed up and they need a little extra help to be able to be on alert all the time. And one of the ways to feed your nervous system is to give it monounsaturated fats, good fats, and omega-3s, which is kind of good oils, like fish oils. So whether you are cooking with a little more olive oil, eating different nuts and seeds, having some, a handful of olives or avocado, all of that is a really great way to feed your nervous system. Those oils and fats act as like a lubrication for our nervous system. So it kind of tamps down our natural alertness, helps it like kind of relax a bit. Just kind of like car engine oil does in our vehicles. It just lets everything kind of run a little bit better and smoother. And we will find that we're a little less reactive, a little more naturally calm, and also that our body has what it needs to keep the nervous system running well. So feeding your nervous system is something that's super simple, but it's also something that, we sometimes forget about. And so I would say like once a day at least, feeding your nervous system is going to be a great way to do that. All of these things are on the food pyramid or the food chart or whatever it is that we're always looking at for nutrition. So they're definitely on there, and they and I would also say if you just feel like if you want to eat like 4 avocados every day so that you feel a little less stressed, then I would say be careful, because too many of monounsaturated fats slows a lot of things down, including your digestion and all kinds of things. So, definitely keep it in moderation, but know that feeding your nervous system is a really empowering way to feel like you can manage this amazing nature of yours. The third tip is something that a lot of people were talking about, which is differentiating what's yours and what isn't. That's not an easy thing to do, but it's really, really important. And the important thing for you to know is that in the moment, you can just kind of take a deep breath. If all of a sudden you're feeling really tense or stressed and you weren't just a minute ago, but now you're feeling super crabby or tired or anything like that, then it's important for you to be able to ask yourself in the moment, is this mine? And the reason you can do it in your head, you don't have to like stop in the middle of traffic and do it out loud or anything like that. But um, just ask if it's yours. And usually you'll get a feeling, or maybe you'll hear, the words yes or no in your head. For me, yes is always a little bit lighter. Like I feel like the energy just lightens up, and no just stays the same all the time. So, like nothing really moves, it just lays flat. But I've heard people see different colors for yes and no. I've heard people do muscle testing for yes and no. I've heard people get their pendulum out for yes and no. So, whatever works for you to feel like you can very clearly get a yes or no answer in the moment, is really important, because once you realize it's not yours, it gives you an automatic boundary between between the feeling and the person. And it also clears your head a bit so that you can ask the next question. Um, if it's not yours, then you can ask, do I need to help? And get a yes or a no. Because sometimes we feel things because we need to be aware of them. Sometimes we feel things just because they are floating in the air. And sometimes we feel things because we are supposed to help. But because we are very help oriented and kind hearted people, we sometimes jump into help mode, even if we don't need to. So if the feeling is yours, like when you're saying, is this mine? And you get a yes, then go do what you need to do to process that feeling. If that's take some deep breaths or vent to someone or go take a walk or whatever it is you do when you're having feelings that are difficult, you need to process them. If no, ask then, do I need to help? And if you get a no, then you can literally just think to yourself, okay, I'm aware. And if you want to kind of send um, whoever the emotion is coming from some good thoughts, say a prayer for them, send them some light or good energy or good vibes or whatever you want to, then you can. And I'll I'll give you but most of the time, it just means we need to back off if we get a no to, do I need to help? And then if we're having trouble shaking it, we can do whatever we would do to process our emotions. Take some deep breaths, take a walk, journal, whatever works for you. For me in the moment, like 3 to 5 deep breaths really does a lot. So I drove by an accident, a car accident, a little while ago, and there were already emergency vehicles at the accident. So I knew obviously it was being taken care of, but I felt this huge wave of stress when I drove by. Um, and I think it was just because it was a bad accident and there was a lot of trauma involved with the people that were in it, which is totally understandable. But that was obviously not mine. But if I had asked, then I definitely would have gotten a no. And then the answer to, do I need to help is also kind of obvious in that, there are already professional people there on the scene, and me being there would just kind of, I don't know, clutter things. But sometimes I think the hardest part of being an empath is letting people have their pain and letting people learn their lessons. And by that, I mean, it's really difficult to know that someone's in pain and not be able to do anything about it or to not help. But a lot of the time, it's exactly what people need to go through in order to feel like, in order to get whatever lesson they need to learn out of it. And so you can kind of stand at the ready to be help or a resource if you feel like, somebody's hurting. But sometimes us jumping in just makes the hurt bigger. even though that's not our intention at all. And so I would say it's really important to kind of know when it isn't your lesson, what else, like what else can you do? You can totally um, just offer help, or say, if you need anything, I'm here, or just sit with someone if you need to, or that kind of thing. But sometimes not jumping into help is really great. After I drove by that accident, it took me a few minutes of like taking some deep breaths just to process that energy through my body, um, instead of like carrying it and having that like tightness in my chest and that stress. So taking deep breaths is like this really wonderful way to just literally clear your head and get your body some more oxygen and slow down a stressed heartbeat and all kinds of things. So I would say this is one of the most important parts about being someone who feels other people's emotions, is knowing if it's yours and knowing if you need to help. So try it even on things that don't seem that big a deal, so you can kind of get used to, okay, this is my yes and this is my no. And so I know I'm supposed to just be aware of this in case the person needs me, but I don't need to jump in and help, or I do need to jump in and help, whatever works. I think this is really hard because when you're feeling bad, and even if it isn't yours, it's still in your body. And if it's in your body, then you want to feel better. And if you want to feel better, you want to help. And so it's this thing that is kind of stressful. If you're not supposed to help and you feel it, it can be very stressful. But knowing the difference is really, really important. And it helps people, it helps you and other people, better kind of learn what they need to learn in the moment. Tip number 4 is to manage your energy. And the reason I put these pictures in here is because we already manage our calendars, our schedules, our finances, all kinds of things. And, 1 in 5 people is highly sensitive, but that means the other 4 are not. And those other 4 can, regulate their energy by, just going to bed, or taking a day off here and there, whatever. But people who are highly sensitive need to sincerely think uh, about like consciously managing their energy in order to stay in balance. And so if you can think of your energy as something to manage, it's really rewarding when you can stay on top of it. So there's 4 different ways that I recommend to manage your empathic nature. One is to ground your energy, which means getting centered. And that just kind of helps you be able to know what your energy is and what other people's energy is really easily. If we're sometimes our energy is scattered in all the people and places that we need to be. But um, if we are grounded, then our energy is squarely like in our gut or in our legs and our feet. And basically grounding is just taking all the energy that's in your head, trying to make sense of stuff, and all the energy that's in your heart, that's like, your heart beating fast and breathing shallowly, and like moving it down more toward your center. And being able to do that just helps you stay more in your own energy and not get stuck in other people's. Protecting your energy before you go out, or when you're going to be in a situation or a place or whatever that's difficult, is also important. Some people protect their energy with visualizations. Some wear either like amulets or crystals or things like that help them feel protected. Some people do a whole lot of like prayer before, or meditation before they kind of leave the sanctuary of their home, and that works. So there's a lot of different ways to be able to protect your energy, and that's a whole other class. Clearing your energy is just a way of taking a little bit of time. Oh, I do want to say that I would do a little something to protect your energy before you go out for the day or get into your work mode or whatever, just to help, kind of lessen the amount of energy you take in. You can still intend to pick up whatever you need to pick up. You don't have to feel like you're shutting the world out or you're being mean or anything like that, if you're setting protection for yourself. Clearing your energy, number three, is really just a way of letting go of energy that really isn't yours. And to be honest, grounding your energy helps clear it out too. But the idea here is to do something that helps you decompress, or do some sort of activity or visualization that helps you feel like you're letting go of any energy you may have picked up that day or that meeting or whatever. There's lots of different ways to clear your energy. Again, grounding, breathing, those are great. Some people like to take a shower at night and, imagine everything they don't need from the day going down the sink, or sorry, drain. Some people use different like breathing methods. Some people do meditations. There's a lot of ways to clear your energy, but doing at least one of those every day is a great way to kind of keep your energy in balance and replenish your energy. So we start off just like we have a certain amount of money in our bank accounts. We also start out with like a certain amount of energy in our bodies. And, we know that throughout the day, it can get drained, even if it's just a little bit. And so knowing that we have things we can look forward to that replenish our energy, whether it's like soulful conversations with friends, or it is, fun activities with the family, or spiritual pursuits that help us get centered, like anything that you look forward to tends to be something that replenishes your energy. And so making sure you have a little bit of time to feed your energy again, replenish what you've lost, is a great way to also manage your nature. So these are like the four different ways to manage the empathic nature. I do also want to say, just as far as managing your energy goes, one of the easiest ways is to just kind of plan ahead. So if you're thinking about, I don't know, like you're going to go to Aunt Betty's house for Thanksgiving, and that sometimes being there is a little bit draining for you, or whenever you're around cousin Matt, it's like very exhausting for you or whatever. So then just, give yourself, okay, I'm going to go to Aunt Betty's, but I'm only going to be there for this long. And I'm going to tell her ahead of time that I have another appointment, and she doesn't need to know that your appointment is with Netflix. You could just say, I have somewhere, another commitment or whatever, and give yourself an out, because being able to do that is really, really helpful. And like limiting the amount of time you spend in places that are draining is really important. I had someone tell me that they recently decided, I think they were talking about going to one of the supermarkets here, and she just found it so draining to go in that particular supermarket. And she said, I'm either gonna only order online, so I just pick it up, or I'm going to like plan to only be in there for like 30 minutes tops. So she makes like a whole plan of attack so she can go, get everything on her list and get the heck out so that it doesn't drain her too much. So yeah, it can be anywhere that you need to go that's draining, or any, person that you need to spend time with who's draining, that kind of thing. Just give yourself an out. If you do need to be somewhere sort of long-term and you can't just be there for 30 minutes or whatever, like my other fellow empath, then just plan for breaks. Sometimes just unhooking from energy is enough to, kind of replenish and clear. But, if you have to, go get something out of your car, if you tell people you need to use the restroom, if you like anything, all of that is a really great way to, just give yourself a break from the energy. And I'll tell you, so The Gem Fair comes here to Salt Lake, I think a few times a year. And I love going to the Gem Fair and shopping for crystals. And they always have fun things. But it's also in a convention center with recycled air and um, fluorescent lighting. And there's a lot of people. And it's very draining, even though I like going. And so I kind of make a deal with myself that I will wander around for an hour and then I will sit down and I will either like drink some water. Sometimes I have an apple or banana, something with like potassium or something, something that's good, good for me anyway. And then I make sure I have a break like halfway through the Gem Fair. And then I feel like I've replenished and I can get out there for another hour. And then I head home. So just know, like, it doesn't have to be, it can be in your daily life. It can be for special occasions. It can be going to conventions. It can be all kinds of things, but just plan ahead a bit, because finding, planning for like breaks and giving yourself an out and all of those things is really important to be able to just like take some deep breaths. And nobody can really argue with, hey, I need to use the restroom. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to say, no, you can't do that unless you're, I don't know, in junior high and they manage your restroom breaks. But anyway, so there we go. Like, tip number 4 is just realize that you can absolutely manage your energy. And it is something that's within your control. Now, I will say that sometimes we don't know that something is draining until after we've already done it, because, you have that really cloudy feeling, or you're just like so tired, or you just can't think very straight. That's okay. Like, just know that the next time you have to go there, or the next time you're going to do that, you're going to plan ahead and, plan to give yourself a little break, or take some deep breaths in the middle of what's going on so you can get grounded, or whatever it is, just to unhook from the energy and manage it again. All right, tip number 5 is to embrace downtime. And the reason I say this is because a lot of the time, what happens when you are basically a human antenna that's picking up all kinds of signals and emotions and things from other people, even when you're not trying to, is that having some downtime, whatever that looks like to you, is a great way to get back in balance. And the reason I say that is because there's something about alone time for us, whether you are listening to music, or you're taking a walk, or you're just resting, or you're reading, watching TV, it doesn't even matter. There's just something about being kind of just having some space to ourselves that's really, really refreshing and also decompressing. And I don't mean that you need to, I don't know, tell everyone to go away and be like, go live in the woods for a month, or it's not like that. I feel like even if you just plan for like a half hour to an hour a day of downtime, and you compare it with, your exercise time, or you compare it with your TV time in the evening, or you can like whatever, or you compare it with your yoga class, like whatever works for you. It just needs to feel like you're not going to have to do a lot of peopling, because there aren't a ton of people around, and that you get to sort of offload some of the energy that you have picked up. And those things are so important. And I feel like we often don't want to be rude, and so we don't want to excuse ourselves, or tell people that we need some downtime. But what I want to say to you is, like, if you just do a little bit of this every day, or if you do this like a few times a week, or you're just going to see there's such a huge difference. This is part of the replenishing part of managing your nature, because it helps kind of ground you, and it helps kind of clear out energy you don't want, and it's replenishing. So it helps kind of recharge your batteries, if that makes sense. I knew one person who said she just turned off her phone and she just listened to music for like I think she had like a 20-minute commute from work, and she would put on like really great music that was like relaxing, and didn't wasn't so relaxing that she couldn't drive home, but like was relaxing enough that she could kind of downshift her energy from the day between work and home, and that was great. And another person who just takes a bath and just soaks and allows like everything to go down the drain, or it doesn't matter what your downtime is, as long as it is downtime to you. And I also want to say, like, just like figuring out how to manage your energy can be a little bit like, you have to kind of hit and miss, or you have to kind of live through it and then figure out how to manage it. um, Downtime can be the same way, because we don't necessarily want to be disconnected from the people we love, or the places that we love either. And so there's sometimes like kind of a fine line between downtime and feeling isolated. And you'll figure out what that is. If you want to just not talk to someone for a long time, then that's different than really just kind of decompressing. So, you kind of find what that downtime is for you, but offloading some of that energy, getting back to your own energy and replenishing your energy is really, really important. So if you're following these 5 empowering tips, then hopefully you're going to be peaceful and in balance. And that is going to help you feel a lot more empowered. Rather than feeling like you're at the mercy of your nature, you can feel like, well, I can work with it. I can help my body. I can help my energy. And I can make sure that I'm taking care of myself while I'm doing everything else that I've asked to do, or that I'm sorry, that I have responsibility to do. If you found these tips helpful, and if you haven't already donated for this class, then feel free to leave a digital donation. I'm at Jennafer Martin on Venmo, or paypal.me/Jennafer Martin. Also, I do have one-on-one coaching available. So if you want to set that up, you can get in touch with me, or you can visit my booking site. I help people work on their managing their sensitive nature, just kind of one-on-one, especially if there's one thing that you seem to be, or 1 or 2 things you seem to be having stress with, and we can kind of try a bunch of different things to help you out. Anybody have any questions? Anything that you're kind of still wondering about after everything? Well, I'll keep an eye on the chat, but I do want to say that if you do have questions, oh, you're welcome. Then feel free to get in touch with me. That's my email, and I'm on major social media sites. And I'm on Meetup as well. So anything that you have questions about, or if you try these things and you're like, I still don't necessarily think I'm getting it, or maybe I need a little bit more help, I'm happy to be your resource. So feel free to reach out. I am so thankful that you spent some of your evening with me here. And I really hope that these tips help you feel more empowered to follow your, or to manage your awesome sensitive nature and go be badass empaths in the world. Have a great night, and I'll see you later.